Alright, this will be a very short video. I just want to talk about a few studies when it comes to is meat healthy or not, because a lot of people talk about it, a lot of people have strong opinions. I don't see anyone showing the research. So first I want to start with this meta-analysis, and I'm going to try to be straight to the point, not going to waste your time. They analyzed 44 studies, 2/3 were industry funded, and out of the 44 studies analyzed, the independent studies, 73% of the time they showed that red meat increased heart disease, while the industry funded studies, 79% of the time they show that red meat does not increase heart disease. Here's an image from the study. So when you separate industry funded from non-industry funded studies, the industry funded studies consistently show that red meat does not increase heart disease, while the ones that are not being paid by the meat industry, those actually show that red meat increases heart disease risk. And by the way, this study was from 2025. And the second study I want to talk about was actually from this year, from May this year. It's extremely recent. And this is a meta-research review of a bunch of studies. And in this study, they analyzed 500 other studies. They essentially tried to analyze if there is manipulation, and the results were studies with industry ties were 16 times more likely to report favorable conclusions regarding meat consumption. Essentially, the studies were being manipulated. So when you separate industry funded from non-industry funded, the industry funded studies, they were 16 times more likely to show positive health outcomes. And by the way, this one, in this meta-research review, it's actually all meat types, not just red meat. The first study was a meta-analysis. They only analyzed studies that talked about red meat. In this one, it's actually all meat. So white meat and red meat as well. And here's an image from the study that summarizes it. When the authors were affiliated with the meat industry, the studies were pretty much always favorable. But when there was zero evidence of affiliation to the meat industry, no authors affiliated, no industry funding, in that case, pretty much almost the entire time, the conclusions were actually unfavorable. And meat did increase heart disease and negative health outcomes. So when there was zero manipulation, the vast majority of the time, meat was shown to not be healthy for health outcomes. And by the way, you're probably wondering, oh, but I need the protein because it's more bioavailable, because otherwise I'm not going to build muscle or whatever. But we actually have a bunch of systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials showing that when you equate protein intake, for example, comparing soy protein with meat protein and equating the grams of protein that you consume, there was no statistical difference between plant protein and animal protein when it comes to muscle strength and also physical performance, based on 12 different randomized controlled trials. So here's the data, make up your mind, but stop forming opinions based on nothing. Based on what people say. You have to look at the evidence. Stop using your intuition, stop trusting what people say, actually look at the research, and then make your own conclusions. High quality, independent research, by the way, because a lot of studies are manipulated, as you can see on screen, but when you look at non-manipulated studies, you actually see that the studies consistently show that meat is not a health food. And I don't know why it's so controversial. I guess people are just not reading the studies, because I see a lot of opinions. I see a lot of strong opinions all the time, but nobody ever shows you this. No one is linking these studies and trying to decipher meta-analysis and systematic reviews and randomized controlled trials. No one's doing that. Everyone's just copying each other's opinions and making up their own mind based on nothing, instead of analyzing the data for themselves and then making a conclusion. So that's what I want you to do with this video. Take in the information, go look at the studies if you want to read the entire paper, but make your conclusions based on actual data, not based on what other people say.